Welcome to Command Control Power, a weekly podcast hosted by 3 certified members of the Apple Consultants Network, drawing from over half a century of combined experience. We talk shop, interview vendors and colleagues, and share what we've learned while operating our technology consulting practices. This is Joe Saponari of CyMac, and my 2 co-hosts are Jerry Zigman of MacWorks and Sam Valencia of the HCS Technology Group. For the freshest content, a peek behind the scenes, and more candid conversation about running our businesses, dealing with clients, fixing tough technical issues, and everything else you love about Command Control Power, we invite you to join us on Patreon so you don't miss any of this great content. Go to commandcontrolpower.com and click support. Pledge monthly, and you can instantly subscribe to the patron-only shows right in your favorite podcast app. Once again, to join us on Patreon and get the latest patron-only episodes, visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support. We hope to see you there, and thanks for listening. Command Control Power is brought to you commercial-free thanks to the support of our community. Our VIP supporters include Jason Detbarn of Adigy.com, Taylor Boyko of SimpleMDM.com, Collide.co, John Brown of GroveTech.co, Watchman Monitoring, and Adam Angst of Tidbits Content Network. Thanks very much for supporting the show. Last week, we talked a lot about Starlink, and that was in the context of tech at Burning Man. And I think Burning Man, the event, provided a good context shift for me, taking me out of the day-to-day experience of just everyday life and tech. And beyond Burning Man, I was back on the road. I drove out to Nevada from Colorado and back. And so I had some experience being on the road again for an extended period of time, having our little van life adventure. And I was reminded of some of the frustrations of van life and also just tech in general.
The good thing is gas prices have come down, right?
It's true. Yeah. The highest gas price I saw was over $7. I think it was $7.79 outside of Lake Tahoe in California, on the California side. That was insane.
When was that?
That was 2 weeks ago, whatever it was.
Is that for diesel? Or are you talking diesel?
I might be talking diesel because that was what I was paying.
Here's a quiz for you. What kind of gas does the RV take?
Diesel, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So it's probably diesel.
I was probably paying closer attention to diesel prices. I'm looking at all the advertised prices, and it was as low as $3.99 in different places. But yeah, I was pretty shocked to see that. Of course, I did not buy gas there. But yeah, it's amazing how much it varies by state. You cross the border from California to Nevada, and you're 20 minutes down the road, and it's $2 cheaper or something. It's pretty wild. So yes, gas prices being a little bit better made the whole thing a little bit more doable. But one of the things is cell coverage, obviously. Just that's my main connectivity. I don't use the Starlink when I'm just driving around, or even if I'm set up at a campsite or something like that. I don't bother connecting it. I wish.
Yeah, we talked about the practicality of doing that on a night-by-night basis, and you said it's just really, it's designed for longer stay than just overnight.
Yeah, and some people with a larger rig might permanently mount it, maybe even drive with it, and I think it can work in that way to some degree. I would do that if I were doing the full-time van life thing again, maybe have that more of a regular option, but cell is still the thing. So I have a cell booster now in the van. I don't have the solution I used to have, the PepLink router bridging 2 connections and all. I just have a cell signal booster, which is much simpler and works pretty well. But one of the issues I had was with iCloud, I'm trying to share stuff along the way, stay in touch with family, whatever. I also had 3 birthdays, actually more than that, but my mom's, my dad's, and my sister's birthday all occur.
Oh, whew. I thought I missed your birthday. I was getting a little sweaty palms for a moment.
You missed 3 of my birthdays, yeah. So as I'm just transiting between places and I'm going in and out of coverage, FaceTime calls are tough. Even cell calls are tough because with a booster, what happens is in a place where I should get 0 coverage, I get marginally usable coverage. But that also means that when I round a bend, it just drops out because it's totally unusable in that area. So even as I'm driving, it's not easy to be on the phone, really. So
yeah, you're boosting bad coverage.
Yeah, exactly. So it makes it usable, especially if you're stable. Sometimes, again, as you're moving, it's just it goes from where it shouldn't work at all to working a little bit to, and then as you round a bend and it just drops out. So it's frustrating. And so one of the things I've been doing is sending people videos. I sent my dad a video for his birthday. Hey, Dad, I'm here hiking overlooking Lake Tahoe and whatever. And I get a response, video's not downloading. I'm swearing, right? It's so frustrating when technology it just fails in stupid ways. So what iCloud does, and this is just, again, zooming out to just broad tech complaints now. So you try to share a video that's more than a minute long or something, and it shares it by uploading it to iCloud and then sending a link rather than stuffing it into everybody's messages where it's going to take up a bunch of space and who wants that and whatever. So it uses iCloud to share the video. Great feature. Over Wi-Fi, no problem. When you're on cellular, you get this thing that's, hey, your video, it's going to take a while to share this. And then you get an option, share anyway. I don't care if it takes a little while, share it anyway, fine. The problem is the way it's designed, it sends them a message like right now. So it starts uploading and it's going to take a while, it says, but it sends them a message now with a link that doesn't work. Why would it do that? That's just bad design, right? What it should do is when I tap share anyway, it should say something, do you want to send this video when it's finished? And then you tap share anyway, and it would continue uploading in the background. Maybe it shows me a little dotted outline placeholder thing or something indicating that I sent a message that's not actually sent yet, but wait for it to upload and then send them a link. So then I send my mom one 2 days later, a video, and they get the same freaking response from her. It's like, happy birthday. Here's a link that doesn't work. Here's a tech problem for you to solve, some birthday message. So this is just a bad design. So the other problem is, it's not they get a message days later or minutes later, hours later, whatever it takes. The link is ready. They just have to check later.
Right.
Maybe.
YouTube does that. When you upload a video to YouTube, it says, we'll notify you when your link is ready.
It's an easy problem to solve.
Yeah, exactly. It's already been solved. Apple just has to implement it. Why not?
It's such a silly.
Did you tell any of your friends there at your Playa camp about that?
They don't work on this area as far as I know, and this was after the Burning Man.
They don't have a big suggestion box at Apple that anonymous people can put suggestions in?
Yeah. What is it? Feedback.apple.com or something. Yeah, I could definitely send this feedback, but I feel like this is a low-hanging fruit kind of thing. Just make this experience way better. Come on. Why do it this way? Let's notify them that they have a new link that doesn't work. Why? It's such a
great point. And no one ever thinks about this, but you're absolutely right. We've all experienced this at one time or another, but you to a greater degree because of your mobile traveling.
And then my sister's she's more tech savvy than my parents, and it was her birthday then the next day or whatever. And I sent her one, and it was the same thing. Video's not loading.
So you disappointed all three people.
I disappointed three people. Yeah,
you let them down.
To me. But at least my sister followed up a day later. Oh, it's finally loading now in response to my video. But it was funny because my parents they assume it's their problem and they're not going to check it again and whatever. And for me, I did get a message. I said, I think it's ready now for my dad hours later. On my side, I'm taking a wild guess because it still showed it was uploading. So it has to be done by now. So I said to my dad, I think it's there now. And sure enough, it did work, even though to me, it's indicating it's still uploading. So it was just totally bad user experience all around. That was one silly thing, but cellular is still people depend on cellular and they're going to want to use all the features regardless of cellular or Wi-Fi. So I just think that cellular should be a first party peer to Wi-Fi. Like it shouldn't be this, you're on cellular, so all bets are off. I have 50 gigs, I think, with my plan. That's just included with my regular unlimited plan that I can use personal hotspot. I can use obviously for the phone. And I should not have to be careful about how I use it or not do certain things on cellular. That should just be supported. So that's my complaint about that.
That's your grouse for the show.
Yeah, no, there's more. I have more grousing to do. So I have another complaint about the display. Have you noticed this with your iPhones over the years when you're in bright sun? The display, it could be barely readable. Do you have that?
Didn't you share with our listeners a couple of episodes ago that you actually changed that because of...
I did. Yeah, but that should not affect
Joe, you can't have your cake and eat it too. Let me tell you.
I know. No, but I'm talking about, I have the brightness slider all the way up. It's maxed out. So regardless of that, whatever it is, reduce white point setting that I mentioned, that was in the Dave Hamilton show, I have the brightness turned all the way up. But there's this thing that happens in the heat and the bright sun where the phone, I'm pretty sure it's a heat issue where the display has to just go to this super dim mode because the phone is too hot or the display is too hot or something.
This sounds a Burning Man Playa issue to me. Is this where you were experiencing it the most?
Experienced it there, but it's not limited to that. I guess it's probably only when it's really hot.
So you're thinking that the display is throttling itself down because it realizes that it can't possibly compete with the sun, is what you're saying. So there's some sort of smart...
Hot.
Yeah, or it's too hot. So there's some technology that says we have the
ambient lighting that's we can't compete with. So we're gonna throw up our hands
give
in
up.
disgust.
Yeah, we're gonna give up, and then it becomes is the thing on? Oh yeah, it's on. I just have to hold it right up to my face to see that there's. It's bad. I'm surprised if you haven't seen this. I think maybe it is just outdoors in the very hot weather and bright sun.
I wonder if you dug into accessibility and went to some of the adjustments you could do with people with low vision and see if you could change that and make that a shortcut.
Yeah, maybe that feature the reduce white point thing. I've definitely had this experience before I turned that feature on but maybe there's another one in there that to boost the contrast or whatever it is. Because I'm talking, you can't even see how you're framing a video or something. It makes it really unusable.
You'd like to try it, but you can't see the screen to adjust it.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion though, to make it an actual shortcut or something.
Sure.
So yeah, that's another gripe that was just, man, as much money as you spend on a phone, you can't get a phone that works in the sun. So I'm curious with the iPhone 14, I think it's supposed to have a brighter screen by whatever percentage. Maybe I have to buy a new phone.
I've already smelled the justification for buying the new phone in our last show, because we were talking about the emergency services that are available with the satellite link that the phone can, and you lit up right away when I mentioned that, and we were talking about that topic. So I'm thinking to myself, here we go. Joe's already put in the order for the new phone.
You can already hear me justifying it to myself and my loved ones.
Exactly. So let me just ask you a question with those emergency services, because I found the Apple presentation a bit insufferable and I didn't really watch it, because I wasn't in line to get a new phone anyway. I got one last year. Is it only for emergency services, or could your kids text you with that service and say, hey, Mom, we're fine, or something like that? So
I don't know the answer to that yet. I think that it's the way they've built it is emergency SOS.
Exactly. That's what I thought. Yeah.
It's not the use case that I was talking about in the last show where there's people at camp or off the grid. They have kids that are being watched by relatives or friends or whatever back home or somewhere. They just want to get a message. Hey, here's a photo of your little one playing with our son or whatever. It's that
playing with the pit bull.
Right. But it is there when I'm on a hike or something and I'm out of cell coverage. For me, that's the main use case. Or driving. You could be driving somewhere and the car breaks down and you don't have cell coverage.
So it sounds that it is for emergency. It's what I thought it was. So it may not be.
I think you're right. I think it's
ideal.
It's a nice to have, and I'd probably pay a couple bucks a month. I pay the Garmin thing. It's $12 a month to have that emergency satellite communicator. And that actually does let you text other people. So it's not just calling for help, send help right now at this location. I can also just text random people. Hey, what was that thing again? Okay. So it is nice in that sense, and it's $12 a month. So I think the Apple one, after the 2 years free, will probably be worth paying a couple bucks, or it's probably going to be included with iCloud Plus, let's say. I think that will be a really nice thing to have, and I think that will compel people to upgrade potentially to the new phone. So they're going to sell hardware for that reason, and they may sell me some, but it's not quite the same as having even just the ability to text friends and relatives.
So you're doing a lot of complaining today, Joe. Any more? Anything else you want to get off your chest?
You haven't heard enough complaints yet? Yeah, how about a Google complaint? That'll keep things fresh and interesting.
Sure, hit me.
Burning Man. With camp, it's a bunch of people. Yes, there's a lot of Apple engineers that happen to be in our camp, but there's also a bunch of, or maybe let's just say a few Android people. And so we want to share photos amongst the group. How do you do that? Google Photos is the lowest common denominator. That was the consensus, was let's use Google Photos to share photos with each other, a shared album of some sort. So fine. So you go to the link for the shared album to upload your photos, and Google on the website for Google Photos, it's, hey, this is better in the app, quote unquote, better in the app. Okay, cool. I'll relent. I'll download Google Photos for the first time on my phone. I'll bite. So I click the link. I'm in the App Store. I click get. Okay, got the app. I open it. So then you get this freaking display. It's just an overlay of the whole screen. Google Photos needs full access to your photos. That's the header. Really, it needs full access to your photos? That's pretty heavy-handed. It's not true. You don't need. So then the small text says, the Google Photos app needs this access to let you view, share, or have the option to back up photos from this device.
It wants
really?
Right. Yeah, so it wants to do more for you because you're too dumb to figure it out for yourself. Right. So we need full access.
Exactly. I knew you'd appreciate this, Gripe. The key thing is have the option to back up photos from this device. Yeah, you would need access to my full photo library if I wanted you to back up my full photo library. But you haven't asked me if I wanted you to do that. And no, I don't want you to do that. I'm trying to share a few photos with my friends who already created the shared album. why don't you want to let me use your stupid app to do that feature? Right? I could be a participant in your Google photo ecosystem here.
Sure.
And maybe I would start using it myself if I could get past this stupid screen. But
right. Give me a taste. Yeah.
Right.
I don't want to sign on for the full Monty. Just give me a little taste and I might want more.
That's bad design, bad user experience. And I'm well aware that Apple has a feature where I can give an app access to specific photos. I think that's a fantastic feature. I don't want Instagram or whatever to have access to my full photo library. I'll choose using the Apple sanctioned interface, which albums or which photos I want to give them access to. I'm comfortable with that. That's for me, that's the difference between using an app and not using the app. And the fact that Google Photos just stubbornly pretends that they have to get full access to your photos, that is not true. That's very misleading, and I'm not going to.
So you deleted the app, right?
Yeah,
of course.
I can't use it. So sorry, guys. So that's just very typical to me of Google, and they're willing to mislead their users in the interest of. I don't understand why they think that's better for them. I guess because then you're going to capture all my photos, and then you're going to tell me in 5 days, oh no, you're out of space now.
Sure.
You have to pay us more.
Services, that's where the money is. So that's what they want to do. They want to get you on the hook and then upsell you with paid services for backup.
Right.
Yeah, it's not like Sergey Brin is going to go thumbing through your photographs looking for the juicy ones. So I get it. You don't even have to be tech savvy to understand that. We have lots of clients, both you and I, who would object to it just on moral principles alone. No, why should I do that? Right. So when we're sitting there with a client going, you got to do that to use the app. And they look at you, it's your fault.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I didn't make the software. I think one last gripe on this is I think there should be an easier way to just let an app download everything, especially Apple apps. I've noticed, and yeah, I'm still a user of the Podcasts app. I know I should use Overcast, Jerry. I know you're going to recommend that. But I've got all my listening history and all my show subscriptions and whatever in the podcast app. And it's first party, and I need to know first party stuff for what I do. Fine. So that's why I use Podcasts. But Podcast does not handle the cell network disappearing very well. Again, I might be on a drive. I might be listening to a podcast and I get a phone call. Okay, I get a phone call and then the call's interrupted. Okay, fine. I'm out of coverage now. I'm just going to go back to listening to podcasts. I'll call the person back later. But the podcast won't play because I'm not connected to the internet. I was just listening to the thing. You didn't buffer 10 more minutes of the show at least. You can't bridge this gap of this brief interruption. It's very strange that a lot of these apps are still designed to have constant connectivity. And it's a thing you only notice when you're on a road trip in and out of coverage or at an event Burning Man, where, my phone has plenty of space. I have plenty of cell bandwidth. I pay for plenty of data. It's included with my plan. It should just buffer everything. Download the shows that are in my up next queue automatically.
You can't specify that in the app because I know nothing about this app because I don't use it.
That's a good question. I haven't looked too far for that setting, but it doesn't seem like the kind of setting. I guess I should look for it first. But
I'll tell you that Overcast is very granular and customizable, and you can tell it and train it to do just about anything that you want to do. Locally download the last 3 podcasts and then automatically delete the podcast after I listen to it. I know it would be difficult for you to switch camps because you said you have all your subscriptions and everything dialed in, but it may be worth that journey to get the Overcast app because it's does everything you needed to do and more.
I'm going to have a sheepish response here. I bothered to go into settings just now, thanks to your suggestion. And I see that there's a section called automatic downloads, allow over cellular. It was turned off. So I'm going to just turn that feature on there.
And I'm going to have to charge you. I'm really sorry because we're into this call now. I have to check the time, but at least 20 minutes. So you've got a little bit of a charge just so you're aware of it. Continue, please.
Yeah, I'm happy to pay. You're well worth it.
Wait a minute. I don't think I've ever had a client say that. So I just want to record.
It doesn't sound very realistic. Yeah. No, it is my stupidity that I didn't check for this automatic downloads feature. It's probably one of these things where I've been such a user for such a long time that a lot of this stuff 10 years ago, maybe I didn't want cellular bandwidth to be used for this kind of thing. Maybe the setting was valid back then and maybe things are different now. But
or when the app updates, it goes back to its default setting, which would be to have that turned off. So that could be too.
Possibly. You're being generous now because you're getting paid. So we're
friends.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think YouTube is a good counterexample. Just giving a little credit to Google, they do have a feature, and they probably asked me at one point, but do you want to automatically download stuff that we think you're going to kind of thing? So it's before you go out of coverage, you probably have some stuff in the queue. So that's an example where things do work pretty well. And I think that things should move more in that direction because cellular is not perfect and storage is pretty cheap. So I'd rather just have it buffer content for me and give me some stuff to listen to. So I think it can do more of that. And I probably just need to poke around in settings a little bit more to enable that. I have one more positive thing. Have you played with the Focus?
This
Gary?
would be the first positive thing. Let's be clear about this. You
have
don't have one
thing.
more positive thing. This is the first positive thing you've said all show. So
I know. I
please
feel like
continue.
I'm griping a lot. I guess I made note of the frustrations more than the positive things. I just want to say I had a great time. It was really amazing.
You came back angry as far as I could tell.
Apparently I sound pretty freaking worked up here, but I actually had a great time. Burning Man is an amazing experience to have, and just having the luxury of being away from the company for a period of weeks is amazing and still very novel to me. And yeah, I really, it's a luxury and it's amazing. And I don't want to sound I'm griping, but I'm just trying to bring to, I don't know, the attention of our listeners, not that anyone can change anything, but what those tech frustrations are. But I also want to mention a positive thing, which is the focus modes are great. Have you used the focus, sleep focus or do not disturb, but have you made any others, work and personal and stuff like that, Jerry?
I know exactly what you're talking about. And of course, they've been enhanced even more with the new OS because now you can create unique screens for these focus modes. So it's a little bit easier to tell what mode you're in. You could create, for instance, a home screen that when you're in a particular focus mode. But no, I haven't dived into those at all. I don't have a problem. I think my thing is I want to be all in all the time. So
wow.
I feel that anything that's an interruption is either important for me. And it's not, I think if I worked at a regular 9-to-5 job, I might create a focus mode for being at work versus being out of work. And that might prove to be useful. But I feel I'm just all in all the time. I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah, I can vouch for that. You definitely seem to be probably the most connected among the three of us between you, me, and Sam. And I'm probably the least connected. I'll go dark sometimes, as you probably know. And maybe that's a personal kind of philosophy type of thing. I do try to firewall at certain times. This is different from the way I worked in the early days where I was 24/7 and I didn't have I wanted to prioritize being available to my clients as much as possible. And so that was a thing. Now it's the opposite. Now I want to firewall my time in a way where I don't have to feel I'm constantly at their beck and call. And so the focus modes, or what do you call these things? Focuses. That's one of the ways
Foci, I believe is the plural.
Right. So I made a Burning Man focus. And because it's a good experiment to me. I could use personal for this, but I just want to see how this works to make one up for myself. So you just make a new focus, you call it whatever you want. You can choose the icon. So I even chose a little flame icon for Burning Man. And I was really happy to see this little flame icon showing up. And that indicated on my lock screen, I'm in Burning Man focus mode. So that was a kind of a cool little side benefit that's very Apple, that you can change the icon and stuff. And the fact that you can just basically turn it on or off, so it's a definitive on-off thing, or you can say, turn it on until the end of this event, or until I leave this location, that kind of thing.
Till I get out of the traffic jam.
Yeah. So I just turned it on and left it on. And the way I configured it was I was able to allow only specific notifications through from certain apps or certain people. So I knew that I'd be in touch with certain people about the event leading up to it, coordinating logistics and things like that. And I knew that those people, or for Burning Man, we communicate using certain apps. Typically, Telegram is a way that we communicate with people in the camp and stuff. It was pretty easy to determine for me who I needed to be in touch with and which apps I would need to use, and just not have anything else come up, not have work stuff come up. So I just thought that was great. It was a really nice experience. It helped me see what I needed to see and know that I was still in the loop with that, but not see everything else. I also did one other thing. I turned off my work email account, which I very rarely do, but I knew that I had Judy keeping an eye on things in my email world, and I wasn't going to be responsible for dealing with email. And so I turned off the mail account. And that way, when I go into mail, all mailboxes or all inboxes, I didn't have to see my work stuff mixed in there. I could see just the remaining accounts, which are my personal accounts. That was basically all I needed to do to firewall my time and feel I was truly disconnected in that way. And it worked out great.
That's very nice. Yeah, I could really see the benefit. I'm not sure I'd want to take a client through how to customize their phone, because I know if I did that, then they'd be in a focus mode after I left and they wouldn't know how to get it out. And you get that call.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I can't see my email anymore.
I'm not getting notifications. None of my calls are coming through. Yeah, but check. It is a little bit hard. Remember, it used to be easy to just say, do you have do not disturb turned on? Now you have to tell them where to find that. Do you see something that says personal or work or sleep? Or it doesn't just say do not disturb anymore. Right. So it is confusing, but it is nice in the sense that it syncs across devices too. So I was able to just turn on the Burning Man focus on my phone, and then my Mac was the same way. It's very Apple, of course, that it's all integrated across all the platforms. That was nice. And then one last thing was the wake up alarm. So I turned off the wake up alarm, but I left the same sleep schedule so that my phone would still wind down at the same time, automatically go to sleep focus, even though it wasn't going to wake me up in the morning. So that was a nice, since I didn't have to get up at a certain time most days, that now has a separate control. The wake up alarm can be off, but you can still have the phone maintain the same sleep schedule, so to speak. So it's less disruptive to your sleep patterns.
Very nice. So when you were there, and again, we spent a lot of time, and it was really interesting talking about Burning Man last week, and we'll move on to a couple other tech topics. But did you see anything techie that jumped out at you beyond the Starlink that we talked about last week?
Yeah, there's this one feature of Burning Man, which our camp loves it. I don't know if this is an obsession across a lot of other camps, but there's a lot of art projects that are fairly technical and do interesting things. There's this one really cool light show kind of thing that has this way of interacting with people. You stand around the thing and you're looking at this column-shaped array of LEDs and lights and things, and I think you hold these sensors that are maybe heart rate sensors, and something about your heart rate and the heart rate of the people that are around the project that are also holding the same sensors affects the patterns of this thing. So this biofeedback machine basically on this grand scale that multiple people share. So that's a neat just example of tech there. But the thing I was going to mention is this art car. That's a whole other thing at Burning Man. They call them mutant vehicles. We just call them colloquially art cars. So these are vehicles of various kinds. They could be a small golf cart type thing or a huge truck that have been modified so they don't look like a normal everyday car. They're just, the art is all over them, or LEDs and lights and fire shooting out of different places and whatnot. One of these art cars is called the Mayan Warrior. And it is just, I call it the demo mode of the AV industry, because it's, if you have a Casio keyboard and you press demo, it's going through all the different sounds and all that stuff. Or your TV, it goes through a thing where it shows you what it can do kind of thing. And so, yeah, this can do everything that the AV industry can do. It can sparkle. It can shoot fire. It has lasers. It has LEDs. It has a screen. It's amazing. And it has the most amazing sound system I've ever heard. It's just amazingly clean and not too loud. And so you feel the music from the treble down to the bass. You feel everything with your body as much as you're hearing it. I think you'd actually this would be something you'd really be interested in seeing, or at least I'd be interested in your feedback if you ever got to experience this thing called the Mayan Warrior. It's this amazing quality sound, and the light show is pretty amazing too. So that was technically a really impressive thing, because it's also a vehicle. So the thing just drives off, and it's, wow, somebody built this thing that can do all these light and sound features, and it also is a vehicle that drives away. It's really technically amazing. I think they spent $1 million on it or something. So it's not, wow. It's pretty remarkable to witness something like that.
Yeah, it's just amazing how much money people will put into this event. And you really can't appreciate it until you go online. And some of the videos that you see are older videos, but they're on YouTube. The order of magnitude is beyond your imagination unless you've familiarized yourself with the event.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And better yet, if you go there. I think you've already established it's not for you, Jerry, but I know Sam is interested. We may get a second set of eyes on Burning Man.
Well, I don't like dust, and I like fresh towels, and I like to be showered up. I don't like to feel gritty. You know what I mean, Joe?
Yeah, I know. I hear you. We have makeshift camp shower and have some of the comforts of an RV, but it's roughing it to a pretty big degree. And it's not for everybody in that sense. It's pretty harsh, gross, dusty, hot environment. And
Pretty Spartan life.
Yeah.
Just a little bit more here before we move on. I did a little bit of follow-up from last week's show. The actual Starlink antenna is $600, $599 to be exact.
Okay. All right.
And they do have shipping and handling, which is $50. And then you're going to have tax on top of that. And then they only give you one option for service to initialize it, and that's the $110.
Yep.
So you're all in for about $700 to get your kit and to get going. Yeah. Plus, you got to get Larry, the cable guy, to climb up and start using his masonry bit and put those in your cement turret.
That's right. Yeah, you got to fish the cable into your house somehow. It's there's a little bit to it, but yeah,
a little bit of finagling, yeah, a little bit of it. So you might be looking at, I don't know, what are we talking? Another $200, $250 for installation, $789. You're close to $1,000.
Yeah, it's up front, and then $100 if you need to use $110 a month.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't think, in case anybody's wondering, I don't think it's really positioned to be your primary internet unless that's your only option, other than other satellite providers. Or maybe it's better, I guess, for some people that only have cellular as an option, maybe it would contend pretty well with cellular. But for anybody with a wired connection of any kind, I think that's probably a better option in most cases. I have the equipment now after these experiments, and if I use it occasionally, what if I just made it my main internet connection here? But it would be better for me to keep the connection I have for less money per month and pause this one for most of the year. So because the latency isn't as good and this bandwidth is not as good, and I think probably if you're relying on it 100% all the time, there's probably some outages, at least more than I would expect with a wired connection. Yeah, but it may get to the point where people are just doing it as their primary connection. But of course, then you don't have a backup connection. I get in the sense of a backup, and I think, yeah, $1,000, I don't know. Maybe it's not for everybody as a backup, but there it is.
So in closing this season's review of Burning Man, one last question for you here, Joe. As I was sitting among my fluffy towels and my nice showered body, anointed with all kinds of lotions, I noticed that you guys had a big traffic jam this year. It made the newswire, and a lot of people were taking note of it. Why this year? Why not other years in the past? What happened?
That's a good question. I don't know the main reason.
Roadkill? My theory was roadkill. There was something dead in the road and everybody slowed down.
Apparently, what they announced, so first of all, we left camp around 8:15 Monday morning. We were going to stay until Tuesday, and then we decided let's get out a day early because we had made pretty good progress tearing down. So Ashley and I were ready to go. So we left Monday morning, and we get to the line, and we turn on the radio, the local FM radio station that's there broadcasting at the event, and they're estimating that there's an 8-hour and 45-minute wait in the line. So we're, oh my God, we could have just stayed at camp and hung out with people, or maybe helped them finish tearing down the rest of camp or whatever. Did we make the wrong decision? Oh, geez. But we're all right, we're committed now. We're in line. Let's just go with it. And so they're estimating 8 hours and 45 minutes. And that's just to get to pavement. That's literally just to leave the event driving on the playa, as you said earlier, the dusty playa, just driving from your camp to the exit road that takes you to the local road, the highway with pavement. It's a 2-lane highway. It's not even really a highway. So that's a pretty significant wait. Then you've got to drive several hours to get to wherever you're actually going, Reno or wherever beyond. In that line, as they're making this announcement, they at some point, few hours in, said, we have flaggers on the pavement on the street to stop traffic that's northbound, because most people, 99% of people are going southbound, but the northbound traffic apparently was interrupting the people exiting Burning Man onto the pavement. And you'd think that they would have planned for this. Obviously, there should be some kind of throttling of that traffic. You have those cars wait that are heading northbound, because you can't turn onto the highway to go southbound until those cars pass or if they're stopped. So right. I don't know if that was what explained the whole issue, but apparently that started to make a difference. So it took us about 7 hours to get to pavement from our camp. So not 8 hours and 45, but that's a pretty long time to be waiting in the line.
Yeah, that seems strange that there'd be that much northbound traffic to allow the people not to get on the main road.
Yeah, I know. I'm really not sure what explains that. Coming into Burning Man, sometimes people wait as long as multiple hours. There were people that have waited 8 hours coming in. It's not shocking when you hear that. We only had about a 2 hour wait coming in. But yeah, that Exodus line, as they call it, was pretty consistently very long for the most of the weekend when people leave, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
Maybe there was a Make America Great Again event somewhere in another part of and everybody was leaving that at the end of that and held things up.
This is an area where I really appreciate having the van. We felt we were in the lap of luxury, even waiting 7-8 hours in line, because we could make some food and we have a toilet and just a lot of resources we have that a lot of other people may not have.
Just burned a lot of gas, though.
We would stop. And essentially what they do is they pulse the line. So you have an hour-long wait where everybody stopped. So you probably shut your car off at that point. And then they let everybody advance a certain amount and then stop again for a while. So it's not this kind of constant stopping and going. It's you just go all at once.
But isn't it a flawed process when it's over 100 degrees out?
Yeah, it was bad all around. I don't know how do you fix that? And how do you fix people coming in? It's just 70,000 people are coming down a 2-lane highway, basically in the span of a few days, to get into an event through the entry road and the exit road have 5-6 lanes. I mean, I don't know. I think the problem is that just the main road coming in and out is a 2-lane highway. There's only so many cars you can fit on there.
I would just think Holiday Inn would be looking really good after a week there.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. You know how much you appreciate a real shower and a real bed after that. It's great. It makes you appreciate the simple things in life.
And you can't wait to go back, right? Next year.
I tell myself every year, why do we do this? But it's a gathering of dozens of people that are good friends of ours that we know. And that's probably one of the main things that keeps us going back every year.
So most interestingly, this past August, Apple had a security update, and this was not the latest one, but one previous to that, which got a lot of news play for some reason. I think it was iOS 15.6.1. The iOS devices really needed to be updated, and I think they later just did a point release on the Mac as well. Anytime Apple makes some sort of announcement that they recommend all people to update right away, the news wires pick that up and they're salivating for anything like that. All of a sudden, I just started getting calls from people who normally are unnecessarily worried about things. My retired attorney who has if you're a regular listener of the show, Jack the Mastiff, almost ripped off my arm. So she was deeply concerned. I was not one of those people who send out some sort of a call to action to my users to update right away, because these things happen all the time. They're going to happen in August, and they happened again. Apple discovered something else that they needed to patch. Most of the people that are on my managed care are people that I make sure that I don't necessarily track their iOS devices, but I'm tracking their Macs. And it's not like I'm losing sleep over neglecting my clients. But I did get some concerned calls. So I had to draft up a little email that says anytime there's a vulnerability that Apple announces that makes headlines, and that's a terrific thing for these media companies to put out the news, and it's clickbait and they get a lot of traction. And yeah, you should always update your iOS device. And this is something that we told our clients over and over again. iPad or iPhone. Yeah, anytime you get a notification for an update. Right. Don't worry about it. Yep. If there's a problem that we need to take care of, it's much better for you to, this is another thing I say, is it's much better for you to update. And if we need to circle back with you to fix something that happened from that update, than it is for you just to ignore the update and not update at all. Is that generally the way you roll?
Yeah, totally agree. And again, I think this has shifted. If you listen to the show from 9 years ago, I was probably saying, wait, on a lot of these updates. We were way more concerned 9-10 years ago that updates were something to be wary of, that they're going to change your system and you're going to have software compatibility issues, or maybe the update bricks something or whatever. And let's do this very carefully. Let's wait a month or whatever. And now, and by the way, I've always been obviously you do want to install updates in general, but I would tell people, wait a few weeks, this kind of thing. Now I'm much more update and then figure it out later. If there's some fallout of software compatibility or whatever, you definitely need to update though.
And we do tell them, sometimes you might necessarily not want to update to the latest version of the operating system when it's first released. But we're speaking strictly on Mac. And if they have any kind of managed care with us, they're not going to be allowed to do that anyway, because we would block that through Adigy.
Yeah,
so,
upgrades versus updates. But I'd love to talk to you more about that too. It's a separate topic, I think, because updates are really key.
You'd have to schedule a time with us with our calendar, and it would be subject to our normal consulting charge.
I thought we're still on the clock. I just want to, while I have you, I just want to ask you one more thing. But
I think that was last week's show.
Yeah, that's a good question too. Is what about the upgrades? And I'm even leaning more toward let's even be less hesitant about upgrades. I think if somebody's already passed the Catalina upgrade filter, which I think most people should be by now, obviously, then there isn't much more downside to upgrade to the latest macOS.
So when that media event hit where Apple made that announcement that you need to update your iOS devices, and it dates back all the way to the iPhone 6S model and 5th generation iPad, everybody really grabbed that information and ran with it. And so one of my break fix clients who I never hear from, and we did a couple of jobs for them. This was the fella that I told you about. He's an elderly fella. We came in, we did some work for him, and he questioned my charges. And generally nobody questions my billing ever. And This was the guy, he spilled water trying to water his Christmas tree.
Oh, yeah.
So I got on my hands and knees and was mopping before our session
above and
started.
beyond, Jerry, above and beyond.
Yeah, I'm here on all fours, mopping up the water on your kitchen floor. Cut me some slack. Maybe that's worth the not questioning my bill.
Yeah.
So he reaches out to me because an Apple certified consultant, a current Apple certified consultant from New York, who he must have been on his mailing list. I don't know whether they worked together at one time or another. And it was this basically what I would consider to be an incendiary or a fear-mongering form letter. So it starts out, there's a greeting to the guy's first name, and then it says a bit of warning, ... And basically does the text grab of Apple has announced that you should update your iOS devices now. And then there's some mention of, and I'm paraphrasing, U.S. government cybersecurity infrastructure encourages you to apply the updates as soon as possible. And then ends. So if you or someone you can use some help getting your Mac, iPhone, or iPad, or any Apple product updated, it's time to call my company, Joe Blow Consulting. And he puts his number in his email and he goes, you got questions? We have answers. We've got this. And signs off. So I didn't take any issue with somebody else contacting this person because we don't really do business together. But he reaches out to me. It's, why don't you reach out to this guy if you've got questions? And I told him this is what we had said earlier in the discussion, that this is something that the media grabs onto. And yes, you should update your iOS device and you should not ignore update messages. I was a little taken back by this fear-mongering email and how differently I run my business, or I know you run your business, than possibly this person who's certainly someone who's a valid Apple consultant. I just wanted to get your feedback on that. What's your take?
Yeah, I have the same take as you. First of all, I think this is actually really good marketing. If you roll this way, this is a good example of how to do it. You said, he mentions the U.S. government cybersecurity infrastructure security agency. It's just keyword stuffing. It's, oh my God. The government, and then it's something about it discovered a vulnerability. Oh my God. It gives hackers the ability to take control of a device's operating system. So all of these things are just, this is normal. This crap happens every day. Practically every update addresses vulnerabilities that give hackers the ability to do blah, 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 blah. And the government says you should upgrade. This is all true on a daily basis. Nothing about the most recent update is any more of an extreme situation that justifies a special warning for this to send to your client. I don't disagree that this is an important update to do, obviously.
Sure.
But I also think that you said this is a really heavy-handed way to spin. I really look at this very cynically. Of course, this stuff is all in the news and everybody's worried. And this consultant is sending an email to everybody, capitalizing on the fact that this is already top of mind for a lot of people and clearly hoping to make money on people that are going to call and say, yes, I do need your help updating. What should I do? Whatever. So I think it's savvy marketing, but I don't agree with sending. I mean, are you going to send this next week when the next update comes out that has the same freaking problems that I feel I've read in the last several updates? That little phrase,
Apple is aware of this being exploited. So it's going to happen again, if not next week or next month, probably the month after that. And that's the whole point is you should always be doing updates. If you say this to clients now, a bit of a warning, you really should update does that imply that you normally don't have to update? Because that's not a good takeaway. If you don't get a special email from me with a bit of a warning saying you need to update, does that mean you don't have to update? That would be a bad outcome if people think you didn't tell me to update, so I didn't update next time around. So I just disagree that this warrants a special email with a warning. I think that it is a savvy marketing play by this person, but I tend not to roll that way. And I think you agree.
This one in August did generate a couple of conversations. And I must say that some residential users, we were able to have a conversation about our managed service plan to make sure that they were indeed up to date and they were backing up their computer. So we did get a little bit of business, but it wasn't because we sent out an incendiary email. It's not my style. We're all a little bit better than that. And I think we can roll down the highway with our head held high, not trying to do more fear mongering, because they're certainly getting a belly full of it from the media.
I completely agree. The media is already doing that. Every time there's an update, it's a reason to write a bunch of news stories saying, Apple has said that this is being exploited. And it's not the first time that they've said that. And yeah, if you zoom out, bigger issue is that there are still so many 0 days that continue to be discovered and exploited. And it's a broader problem than any one specific update. And the news media doesn't help because they sensationalize those instances. In a positive way, it is good that the news is letting people know they should update. It's very annoying to watch these articles come out that are pages of just fear-mongering, when really the thing is just, it's important to update, okay? Just everybody needs to know that. It's important to update in general. Always update. That's the takeaway. That's all they need to say. And instead, they're sensationalizing it and making it this... Yeah, they're making any number of stories about it when all they need to do is just, say updating in general is really important. I'm not going to send you an email every time you need to update. I wish that it were handled better by the tools we have, that we could enforce updates better. I've been trying to roll my own with Nudge and handling the edge cases of certain OS and depending on whether it's supervised and depending on whether it just seems there isn't a really good way right now for me to click one button and say, I want this fleet to be updated as soon as possible. It still feels a little bit too manual and is a little bit too prone to people saying, it's not letting me upgrade. I don't want you to upgrade. I want you to update. And again, that's just still, it's this classic issue that's, I don't know. It's leading me to think, why don't we just release the upgrades? I don't know how long I want to block Ventura. I may be more aggressive this time around in unblocking it. Once I know there's a semi-stable point update, I may just unblock it and say, let's have at it, because I don't want to have people have to jump through too many hoops to update. That's hard enough as it is.
There was a little bit more concern when we were moving from 32-bit to 64-bit apps. And if you have those special clients that's using as a group, let's say a particular version of FileMaker that's not compatible yet with Ventura, don't upgrade because we're not going to support it. So there are reasons to put the brakes on that stuff. But generally, I think with a broad stroke of the brush, you could take your installed base and just have them march forward, maybe with not the first release day or the first release week, but after that first or second point release the Hounds.
Yeah. Release the Hounds. And even for, let's say Monterey is totally mature now and there's no reason to block it, we still to be involved with people to help them through it and plan it carefully and all this stuff. I'm even thinking, what's the sense in that anymore? Yeah, it's nice to generate a little income, let's say, if I'm involved and I can do the white glove version where I do the upgrade for them and make sure everything else is updated along the way and whatever. Well, some people benefit from that and that's nice. And I make money from it. Great. But again, it's an example where I think the balance is being tipped. I mentioned 10 years ago, we looked at this differently, where we wanted to have stability more than we wanted to have updates. And we wanted to carefully roll things out and plan it and test it. And the types of fleets that I manage are not 500 machines in a corporate environment where I might have a test environment and I might deploy an update myself. That's part of my job and whatever. It's a handful of machines here and there, and it's a lot of residential users, and it may be 20 Macs at a client or something. And so maybe the threshold for me would be at the 5 or 10 and up, or 10 to 20 and up. Maybe I continue blocking it because we do handle those kinds of things, but maybe the 5 machines and down, when the residential clients, maybe we just stop blocking that at all. and we just deal with what comes up.
Do clean up on the flip side.
Yep. We'd probably make the same money on an hourly basis dealing with that stuff as we do handling it properly from the start, let's say. And so that's a wash for us. And I do think that it's getting to the point where it's probably already past the point where it's a better outcome to release the Hounds earlier and let them just upgrade at will rather than have them be blocked from upgrading to Monterey and then therefore also not get the latest updates because they don't understand about the clicking the updates thing, and Nudge can't ensure that it's going to be the right outcome. So I'm just tired of jumping through these hoops on behalf of my clients and ending up with a half updated fleet. I'm ready just to relent and say, you know what, Apple, fine. Do you want to market Monterey when all they need is an update? Let them install Monterey. I'm not going to get in the way anymore. I'm leaning toward that. What do you think about that?
You sound a bit angry, Joe.
Maybe it's all the griping from earlier. No, it is frustrating because we want our clients to have a relatively stable system and be protected from all these vulnerabilities that keep coming out, and therefore they have to stay fully up to date constantly. I am frustrated trying to help them navigate that. It's just not as easy as it, in theory, should be. Shouldn't we have a button we click that updates everybody pretty easily? That button, so to speak, doesn't really work.
The thing is, we have to hope that Apple's moving in that direction again, where your mobile device management software will be able to take control again on a granular level it could in the past. So
that's a good point. I think
fingers crossed for the future.
That. Yeah.
Command Control Power wouldn't exist without the support of our community. Special thanks to the following community members whose strong monthly support has sustained us for all these years. Ryan Gowdy, CoreCompetent.com, Weldon Dodd, Kanji.io, Richard Wingfield, EnvisionDesign.net, Adam Rice, AskAdam.io, Mac Admins Podcast, podcast.macadmins.org, Tim Nyberg, TheMacGuys.com, Michael Thompson, Origin84.com, Matthew Waples, Waples.net, Tom Puls, BoxIT.tech, Jerome Potters, PITPro.nl, Steve Sorbo, MacSOS.biz, Andy Espo, callandy.com, and Nate Sinal, weareascout.com. Thank you all very much, and thanks to our patrons at every level of support. If you enjoy the show, we really would love your support. And if you already support us and can increase your monthly pledge, we really do find that encouraging. CommandControlPower.com and click support. Thanks very much for listening and for supporting the show.
Am I on the cloud?
Joe spins his deeply detailed yarns all the time.
I have a whole story about this.
Sam is on the road again, phoning in from a hotel.
At least we know where I am.